What's going on, everybody? We are back. We have episode number 122 of the Club and Sub podcast. This week, we are going to be talking UFC 284. We have a quote unquote super fight. We got Islam Makhachev, the 155-pound champion, taking on Alexander Volkanovski, the pound for pound number one, I believe, and the 145-pound champion in the UFC. It's a decent card. Pretty exciting. We got two title fights here. I'm looking forward to it. Lags, any thoughts from you here?
I think outside of like the two title fights, it's mostly just showcasing Australian talent. Like, there's not a ton of name value really, other than like I said, a couple of guys on the main card.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I don't.
A lot of fun fights
mean,
though. So
yeah, there are, but it's also it's continuing in a pattern of we're going to ask you to pay for this, and we're going to really not dig too deep to make the pay-per-view anything worth watching, to be honest. So,
but
we'll
Jones
see how
it's coming up soon. A couple weeks.
Yeah, there's the next two pay-per-views both look pretty good. So,
yep.
Especially the London one next month, that looks pretty good. So, yeah, this one hopefully will be entertaining. I've got a fair amount of bets though. I know you do as well. So, we have a lot to talk about, and so we'll get into it. As usual, guys, follow me on Twitter at MMA Fox, Lags at Danny_Lags. And if you like the show, please do your boys a favor, drop a like, subscribe, tweet it out, whatever you got to do. It's free content. It's always going to be free content. But if you can help us out along
on top
the
of
way,
that, we got a contest going this week as well because we didn't have a winner from the Brazil pay-per-view.
Do you want to reiterate what that contest is?
We can do that. I guess I could just do that now real quick. But, I mean, I'll also make a tweet out for that as well on Saturday. But let me pull that up real quick here. Okay, so what we're going to do this weekend, since it's obviously not in Brazil, it's in Australia. So you're going to reply a 4+ leg parlay that you bet. The bet slip attached on there. The parlay has to contain at least 2 Australian fighters' method of victory, either money line or method of victory. So you can pick the money line, like I said, or by decision, by knockout, inside the distance, whatever you choose. Third part of that, you have to follow me, John, the podcast on Twitter.
I like that.
And then the highest parlay wins, that hits wins.
And how much is it for?
25. All right, well, I was doing 25, and then you're doing 25 as well, matching.
Yeah, so it'll be $50. We'll hand it out on the show next week. We're going to keep running this until somebody wins it. Maybe we'll even do an escalator, and we'll up the value if it continues to come up short.
Yeah,
so
nobody wins this week. We'll up it to 100 for the Jones Gone pay-per-view.
Yeah, we can do that. But yeah, I mean, let's jump into it. The prelims are, at least the early prelims, they're a bit hairy. First fight, I don't know if anybody's excited for this. We got Zubaira Tukhugov taking on Elvis Brenner. Any thoughts here, Legs?
I think the first thing that needs to be said, not just the matchup itself, but why are we signing these kind of guys that maybe going to be in the UFC for 3 fights? It's an absolute squash match, kind of like what we saw last week with Tyre. Yeah. It's at least give a UFC level guy to Tukhugov, have him grind him out. But yeah, no, I mean, Brenner's hittable on the feet. I think Tukhugov can get takedowns really easily. I think this is easy to go -600. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to stick too hard on this either, and I don't disagree. The line's probably right. I wouldn't parlay it or anything. There's just so many. Tukhugov's just so flaky and so reliable to gas that I don't really want a piece of it. But I'm in any capacity.
What I will say, what I'll add on to that is, usually low volume you as well, but it is moving up to 155 too. So.
Yeah, and maybe he'll look better there, but he's not a big 45 to begin with. So, but he should be fine. I mean, obviously, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is a shortish notice fight for Brenner. He really should handle business here. I think he's the better grappler, certainly the better wrestler. He's definitely the better striker. He's faster. He hits harder. Obviously, he's fought real people, and Brenner's fought nobody. So, yeah, I mean, Tukhugov should be fine. I have zero interest in betting this fight. Let's move on to some more interesting fights here. We got Blake Bilder taking on Shane Young. I was kind of interested in Young at an earlier number. -140 is getting to a point where I'm really not. I've got to be honest. What concerns me with Shane Young, it's not that he doesn't have the tools to win this fight. I think Shane Young has the tools to be legitimately a huge favorite here. In theory, he's a decent defensive wrestler. He's got a good get-up game. He's a good striker. And Builder is like a rabies jiu-jitsu fighter who likes to blitz forward and try to get a back take. And I'm sure you're going to hear it on every show this week. But Builder's got excellent back takes. Yeah, that's true. But I don't think he does anything else very well. He seems kind of fragile. He wings hooks. He's very available. And so it's like, well, Young's fought way better guys. So, like, why wouldn't you bet Shane Young at minus 140? And the thing is, and this is my sticking point, you go back and watch. Can you hear the music in the background? Is that coming through here? Okay. My son's playing something in the other room, and I can hear it. Anyway, Shane Young is, if you go back to the early version of his career, this was a guy who pressured aggressively, super high output, very, very aggressive. And that guy, if you put him here, I think he just absolutely tears through Builder. My problem is 2 fights ago, he fights Ludovic Klein, gets knocked out in about 15 seconds. Next fight's Omar Morales, and I bet Young against Morales, and I bet him against Klein as well. But he looked just spooked. He didn't look like the same guy. He seemed afraid to pressure. He seemed afraid to engage in the pocket. And on the one hand, I get it. Morales presents a real power threat. But on the other hand, he didn't give himself an honest chance to win that fight. And if that's what we're going to get from Shane Young now, is this tepid guy who's afraid to engage, I don't rate Builder, but Builder's aggressive. He could potentially outwork him or just work hard enough to get a back take and just ride him out for a couple rounds. So I don't know. I'm not super interested in Young at this number. I do think he has the tools to win this fight fairly easily, but not for me. What do you think?
Yeah, to me, it seems like one of those classic like UFC vet spots versus this newcomer that's just really.
I can't hear you, Legs.
Oh, good now? Now? Good now?
Still can't
Hello?
hear you.
Good now? Hello?
Still can't hear you.
Really?
No. Anybody in the comments? Can you hear Legs?
Hello? Hello?
No.
No? Maybe I'll leave and come back.
All right, Lags is coming back in. But yeah, I mean, more or less, Shane Young is a different fighter than the guy he was a couple years ago. I mean, go back and watch this guy fight Rolando D, watch him fight Austin Arnett. He's a super aggressive, in-your-face pressure fighter. And that guy he hasn't been there recently. Lags.
Good now? Good now?
Can anybody hear? Oh, it might be me.
Hello?
They're saying. So it is me, Lags. So you can keep going. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, we were talking perfectly fine before the show and everything. Yeah, just to me, it seems like this classic like UFC vet spot versus the newcomers. It's not that great overall. Like Builder striking, he's got some power, but super hittable. You see him getting dropped in a ton of regional fights. His defensive grappling is, I think, pretty tragic. I think Young could get takedowns if he actually wanted to here. Cardio wise, I'd favor Young as well. So like, I get people playing Young, but like he's just a guy that doesn't like. To your point, he's not a guy that puts his foot on rounds, puts his stamp on rounds, I should say. I don't mind the under though. I like pick 'em price. It's not a horrible look either.
Yeah, I mean, Builder's been near finish.
Overall.
Builder's been near finish regionally a bunch of times. So
yeah,
and that's probably and he's a back taker. It's probably his best path is a finish.
Yeah, so. And Young does solid attritional work too. So
yeah, agreed. Moving on, Loma Lubumi taking on Elise Reed. What are your thoughts here, Lags? Anything passionate?
I think this is a Loma smash spot, honestly. I think she more damaging striker on the feet. I think she could mix in takedowns if she wanted to. I think Loma's a solid parlay piece if you wanted to. I think late round finishes for Loma live too on the table.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm not rushing to the window to lay minus 315, but candidly, I think it's probably value. I just don't. Reed is someone who's, bottom game, it's so unbelievably negative. It's hard to trust her against someone who's going to take her down. And it's like, I know historically on Loma, people who take her down give her issues. But I mean, look at the women who are taking her down. Like, this isn't Lupita Godinez here. Loma's going to go for those trips in the clinch. She's going to butcher her there. Reed basically needs this fight to be at range the entire time, and she has to be able to hurt Loma standing. Those are both big asks, in my opinion. I don't really see it, and I actually think if Loma gets on top of her, she's going to do work. People can say what they want about Loma's IQ and how she's like on top of Denise Gomes. Guess what? Denise Gomes has a lot more to offer back than Elise Reed did. Just go watch the Sam Page fight. I love Sam Hughes, but Sam Hughes, she's an average grappler. She's nothing special on top, and she looked like Khabib Nurmagomedov on top of Elise Reed. So, yeah, Loma's going to get multiple takedowns here. I'm fairly certain. I think she's going to wreck her on top. I actually think if you wanted to play this fight, I think Loma KO at like plus 400 is pretty good. I was kind of impressed with the ground and pound she threw against Gomes. A lot of elbows. She was advancing position. And like I said, Gomes has a lot more to offer there than Reed does. I think if she gets on top of Reed, she should be able to pass the dominant position fairly easily and do significant damage on top. So, again, I'm not betting minus 300, but like Lag said, if you wanted to parlay her, I couldn't blame you. I do think there might be value on her, and I actually think I might take a poke at the KO number here.
Like what you were just saying with the KO number, I was looking earlier. They have Loma round 2, round 3 at plus 850 KO.
Yeah, I mean, that's not bad. Yeah. Reed, the problem, actually, no, it's not bad. I was going to say the problem is it's like Reed's a big enough liability that Loma just eviscerating her in a round with like similar to like, I mean, I shouldn't say similar to like Sarge because Sarge is obviously a much better grappler than Loma is. But I mean, the point remains Reed is very easy to pass and move into dominant positions again. So,
yeah, like if Loma came out here and just shot a takedown in the first 30 seconds and is just on top of her, just smashing her with elbows, I wouldn't be shocked either.
Yeah, I mean, I agree completely. Moving on, weird fight, another debutante here. We got Jack Jenkins. He's coming off Contender Series, taking on Don Shainis. I don't know. I've seen some people taking the Shainis poke. I shouldn't say I don't get it. I do, I guess, from a process standpoint, understand it. Shainis is a wrestler. He's a bit more experienced. In theory, he could grapple Jenkins. I just don't really like any of Shainis' game. Even his wrestling, I'd say it's at best average. He has a tendency to put his neck in places it shouldn't be. I don't think he's got the best control game ever. I do think he can be held down on bottom. On the feet, I think this is mostly one-way traffic. I don't think Jenkins is a future champion or anything like that, but to me, he looks like a solidly UFC level fighter. And look, the data is low enough on him that I could be wrong about that, but I can tell you that I do not think Don Shainis is a adequately UFC level fighter. So, yeah, I mean, I think Jenkins should handle him everywhere. I kind of think if Shainis does engage in the grappling, which he will, Jenkins is reasonably live to sub him and or just counter wrestle him to top position and hold him down. I guess the line is right. I'm not. I mean, after the bath I took on Yusaku Kinoshita last week, I'm not dying to bet Contender Series fighters juiced up ever again, as I never really have been. So, but I think Jenkins handles him. What do you think, Legs?
Yeah, I think it should be a good spot for Jenkins as well. Like Shainis, one-dimensional wrestler, really. Stand-up isn't much, super hittable. Jenkins, pretty solid, honestly. Measured striker, good leg kicks as well. Good attritional work as well. I could see, again, another late-round finish here on the table. I think he keeps it standing and probably KO Shainis, honestly, later in this fight.
Yeah, I more or less agree. Moving on, I think you have a play here, if I'm not mistaken. We got Jamie Malarkey. He's taking on another debutante. I believe we got a 20-year-old here. We got Francisco Prado from Argentina. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this guy's super unexperienced, I think, quite frankly. I mean, undefeated, sure, but level competition's absolutely atrocious. On the under 2.5 here, minus 150. To me, I think if Prado doesn't KO one Malarkey's live to just get him out of there late. He's true. But yeah, no, I think the reason why I'm not going super heavy, I should say, because I know a lot of people love the under spot here. I think Malarkey has some wrestling upside here. So
yeah, I agree. Honestly, I'm a little rattled after like I've said for probably to you for the 100th time this week. I'm rattled after the Kinoshita bet last week, even though this isn't like that at all. But I kind of think there is some value on the Malarkey line here. I haven't bet it, and I am looking at the under that you bet. I know you mentioned to me before we came on that it is moving, but my biggest issue with potentially betting Malarkey in this spot is Jamie does not have inherently a minus 300 style. The guy is very hittable. I don't think he's the best top control guy, and he's happy to get into wars. That's always concerning if you're going to lay a huge price. But with that said, Malarkey's had competitive fights with some really good fighters. He beat Michael Johnson, who, in terms of striking at least, Michael Johnson is surely a much better striker than Francisco Prado is, even this version of Michael Johnson. And Prado, he's 20. He's been fighting on the Argentina regionals. He's fought really nobody here. I just don't think he presents a ton of issues to Malarkey, like anywhere. Like he could bonk him, I suppose. I know he's got a bunch of subs on his record, but I watched them grappling, and I think Malarkey's stronger. He's obviously bigger. He's the better wrestler. I'm with you. I think Malarkey can get top time. I think they're going to mostly swing and bang, though, and I think Malarkey's going to put him out. I'm interested in the under. I'm probably going to pass Malarkey, though. I think between the tape, the size difference, the age difference, and the fact that Malarkey has fought real competition, I think he is, if you were going to bet a money line, we're going to say big favorite or pass, which is always an odd one if you're not betting the big favorite. But I don't think I'm going to.
I would just go with the under, honestly. I think it's great.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think it finishes at a very high clip. I mean, Prado has barely been. Has he ever been to a decision?
No.
Yeah, exactly. So I doubt this guy's got gas at the pace Malarkey likes to fight at past around anyway. So
I don't think his cardio seems pretty suspect.
It's kind of weird. Like, have you read anything about why this guy got a contract? Like, I'm still trying to figure that out because I looked at his Tapology page before I went to tape it. And I'm like, man, this fucker's 20 and undefeated. Like, they must see something in him. And then you pull it up, and it's just like, they're just, they have someone down there scouting the Argentinian regional scene. Like,
I remember when I was looking at these fights, I was looking at the Tapology picture first. I'm like, all right, this guy kind of looks like a killer. Like, looks like pretty solid. And then you watch the tape, and it's like, no. I'm all right, no.
Moving on, though. Clayton Rodriguez, Shannon Ross. I took an early Clayton number here, like minus 190. I don't. The line where it is now. What did you say?
I'm kidding, John. I was doing the magic. Very, very fraudulent.
I think the line where it is now is fine. Ross. I think Ross is a pretty tough guy. It's funny because he sort of got blown out of the water on Contenders, but I was actually kind of impressed with him because the guy kept getting hurt like badly and just kept coming. Unfortunately, and that's the kind of thing, a guy who keeps coming, that I'm ordinarily would be looking to fade Clayton with, similar to CJ Vergara. The thing is, CJ Vergara doesn't get hurt badly by solid shots. He can eat a ton of damage and keep coming. Shannon Ross, you watch his tape, and it seems like to me he wants to be a counter boxer, like almost like a pressure heavy counter boxer, except his defense isn't very good. He's been hurt in a ton of different fights. And so it's hard to make that work if you're going to have poor defense and you're going to try to kind of come for people. It's just not a very efficient style. I think from a volume standpoint, Clayton, I think Ross is probably the better boxer, but Clayton has much more reliable volume. He keeps pumping kicks out over and over. I think he moves better. In the grappling, look, Ross could potentially land takedowns, but I think if anybody was to utterly dominate there, it would be Rodriguez. Ashton Mokhtarian absolutely dominated Shannon Ross on the mat. I think if Clayton actually wants to take it there, he can have the same success. Ultimately, I think he's got this fight covered everywhere. I think he's got more finishing upside. Plus, he's the younger fighter, and he should be getting better. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't lay this price now, but I think the price is fine. What do you think, Lags?
Yeah, I guess really where I'd be looking at now is the under 2.5 at current pricing. My only issue with that, and just kind of like watching tape again, like Clayton's like, I don't think his hands are that good. He just his willingness to like just not throw him. He's just more of a kicker, more of a like dynamic striker. And that's kind of what I think here. Like if he's going to finish Ross, it's more of like a dynamic, flashy finish. And if that under cashes, it's more Clayton inside the distance type of thing. Then obviously I don't think Ross has any finishing upside. So yeah, I think it's a good spot for Clayton. Obviously smash, but yeah, not much more to add.
I agree. Moving on, stick with you here. Joshua Kulabau taking on Melsik Baghdasaryan.
I don't have a super passionate take, but I'm lean more so on the Kulabau side here. Like I think Melsik is just kind of, I don't know, early KO one, or just kind of like I get he fights through fatigue pretty well, but he just kind of doesn't seem to have more of a good process. Whereas Kulabau, decent grappler. I know his wrestling's not nothing special, but he can mix it in. Obviously, decent striking as well. Got good power. I think Pickham's fine. I'm not willing to play side here. Not dying on a hill.
Yeah, I haven't bet it, but it looks like it's kind of funny because I was going to bet Joe Anderson Brito as a decent sized dog against Baghdasaryan pretty big. And that fight got canceled, obviously. And I was kind of expecting with the hype that Mel Six generated that we would see him be minus 200, minus 250, and I'd be out here talking about why I'm betting Coolabau plus 185. I was kind of shocked to see that Coolabau is a favorite here, though. And it looks like he's going, yeah, I mean, it was evens, but it looks like he's trending towards being a favorite. I'm moderately interested if Melsick goes dog here and potentially betting him. I'm with you. I'm not as high as the market has historically been on Melsick, but look, he is a skilled kickboxer. He's obviously a very good kicker. He's a decent boxer. He packs a lot of pop, as does Coolabau. The thing is, I'm with you. Melsick's gas tank isn't great, but I'm not sure Coolabau's is either. You know, he went to draw.
Yeah. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
He went to draw with Jourdain because he collapsed down the stretch of that fight. You know, he looked toast in round 3 against Choi. And so I kind of, while I appreciate Coolabau and that he's probably a better fighter, or he is certainly a better fighter than what the market and MMA Twitter thought of him coming into the UFC, it's kind of weird to me that he has this kind of slug him out draw with Choi, or slug him out win with Choi that goes to split. And now he's getting lined a favorite here. You know, I think Milicic small favorite makes sense. I think he is the more dangerous of the two. I don't, you know, to your point, Coolabau will grapple sometimes, but I don't really think Coolabau is a threat to like top time him here.
Right.
And I don't think he's got a huge, you know, gas edge. So it's like I think he's Milicic's a better clinch striker. He does better attritional work. He might be the more dangerous of the two. And now he's trending towards dog. I don't know. I haven't bet him, but if he goes plus money, I'm going to probably take a poke at him. So
all I was going to add on the cardio edge was that I was like, it's not a huge edge for Coolabau in my opinion, but it's like, I think it's enough. But.
And you look at the other, I mean, his cardio looked fine against Nordembeki, but Nordembeki's got pretty terrible cardio himself. You know, it's kind of, it's a kind of a weird, I'm still pretty shocked at, you know, the enthusiasm around Coolabau for this fight. I say this as somebody who, again, wanted to bet him before, you know, odds were released for this fight. But I don't know.
Honestly, what I think is a good number, and I know people, it's a little juiced, I get it, but it goes the distance. On FanDuel, it's minus 134.
That's not bad, actually. That's not that serious. That's, I mean, has anybody, I mean, Turner finished Coolabau, but it's like you can't really put
Turner's massive lightweight.
Turner's a lightweight, yeah.
I mean, and the dude packs a massive punch. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, I don't hate that. Moving on. Oh man. This is actually, no, this is not that. I was looking at the wrong fight. This is the last meh fight, and then the rest are pretty solid. We got Tyson Pedro, Modestas Bukauskas. I don't feel strongly about it. I kind of feel like the line's right. I was always high on Pedro back in the day before he got hurt. You know, I thought he was talented, and now he's apparently training at City Kickboxing. So, I mean, that's bullish, I guess. He's a decent striker. He's a decent grappler. He's a decent athlete. I guess for me, it's like Pedro's decent is the best way to describe him. He's probably above average in everything, but he's not like very good at everything. So obviously he was chalked up to the gills in his last 2 fights, but he was taking on bums. Now he's taking on Bukauskas. It's like, I don't rate Bukauskas much, but I do think, you know, you have to give Bukauskas some credit for basically having, you know, a 50-50 fight with Olasejic. I don't trust his grappling. I think he's probably fragile. I don't trust his output. All of those reasons is why I think the line's probably okay. But I think if Pedro doesn't hurt him, it's probably a pretty close fight. You know, I doubt Pedro is going to get way out ahead of him on minutes here. And he's probably not going to proactively grapple. And really nobody has, you know, paced Bukauskas hard. So I wouldn't be shocked if he can hang around in this fight. But I do think the line's right. I just think the depth of Pedro's game is a lot more than what Bukauskas is going to offer here. The finishing upside, in my opinion, strongly favors him. But I'm not really interested. What do you think?
Yeah, the output of Pedro and just kind of like the lack of going past a round really in any of these wins, it's like, what is there really to go off of, you know? Kind of like what you said, like he's decent, and that's kind of what we have, whereas Bukauskas is like maybe a little step below decent, but like he doesn't throw much. He seems flaky. Durability's a question mark, but yeah, I don't know. Again, everybody seems it's another one like everybody seemed to rushing to bet the over 1.5, and I get it because like these guys are like on the outside not throwing much, but like it seems like one of those fights where it's nothing's gonna happen, and
Yeah.
then somebody's gonna die. But
And Pedro,
I
for
get I
what
get
it's
the process though.
I do too, but like for what it's worth, Pedro, he, I know he didn't come out that hot against Ike, but historically in his career, he's come out pretty hot. He hurt OSP really bad before he lost that fight. He hurts just about everybody he fights. So
You want to hear a crazy stat, John?
hit me with it.
He's 9-1 in fights that end in the first round. He's
Pedro.
0-2. Yes, and he's 0-2 in fights that get past the first round.
One of those was Shogun, which is really just depressing. As a former huge fan of Tyson Pedro, that was really where I sold all my Tyson Pedro stock, losing in Australia as a -500 to Shogun, was ugly. Moving on though, this is a good fight. I'll throw it to you first here, Lags. We got Jimmy Crute. He's taking on Alonzo Menafield. What are your thoughts here?
I think from like a simple breakdown, I think the only big edge in this fight is Crute's BJJ. I think these guys are glass cannon standing, and I think Alonzo's big, physical, strong, good takedown defense enough that early in this fight, I think it's going to be tough for Crute to get him down. So for me, -240 to make a ton of sense on Crute, -220, whatever. I got a unit on Menafield +180, and I like the under 1.5, -115. I think these guys stand and bang. And I think it's going to be tough for Crute to get him down, like I said.
Yeah, I bet Menafield as well. I hate Alonzo. I mean, if you guys have been watching the show since inception, you have heard my Alonzo Menafield slander over and over again.
Mine too, after the OSP fight.
I'm not a fan. I think his boxing's a mess. I don't really think there's much process to it. I think he has some quit in him, but what I will say is he is an excellent athlete. That there's no question about that. He's got, I would argue, almost elite takedown defense. He's got Devin Clark went 1 of 13 on takedowns against him. The guy's got great hips. He does the fundamentals right. He's got a decent get-up game. He's just very, very hard to take down. And I would argue, even offensively, he's probably a better wrestler than Crute is. So I'm with you. I think Crute's biggest advantage in this fight is likely his submission grappling. But I think him getting the fight to that realm is going to be difficult. For one, Crute historically doesn't shoot very much outside of the McCall fight, where it's like, I mean, he's wrestling a guy who literally has like grandma hips in like McCall.
A carcass. He's literally a carcass.
I mean, McCall's grappling is just atrocious. But other than that, he doesn't really, he took him basically having his leg disabled by Anthony Smith to start attempting takedowns in that fight. And so, one, do you trust him to shoot here? Two, if he does shoot fairly often, how reliable is he to get takedowns? And I don't think it's that reliable. If this went 15, I don't think it's going to. But let's say if it goes 15, can you project him to land more than 1 or 2 takedowns? He's only landed over a takedown once in his entire career. Then, on the striking, I think Crute's a better offensive striker for sure. He throws better they both throw good leg kicks, but Crute probably throws better ones. He's a better boxer, but Crute's also a punching dummy on the feet. Anthony Smith went 20 for 32 in headshots in that fight. Everybody who lets their hands go against Crute touches him. And so with that dynamic, it's at 205. We know Menafield hits hard. I don't think either guy's durable. You look at Crute and I mean, he got wobbled bad by a jab from Anthony Smith. People can say don't put that much stock into the Hill fight, but Hill twice in about a minute literally almost killed him on like one shot. So I don't know. He might have durability issues. We don't really know. Ultimately, I think the fighting on the feet, I would favor Crute on minutes on output, but I think there's going to be a lot of chances here for Menafield to hurt him in this fight. And so I make Crute a small favorite just based on, I think Crute has more of a chance to dominate in top position than Menafield would, and he's got a real chance to finish on the mat. But Crute doesn't have the tools to be -200 in this fight. Frankly, Crute doesn't have the tools to be -200 against a lot of guys, if we're being honest. Like, you go back through his UFC run, and it's like, you have the McCall fight, well, okay, performance, but we just saw McCall get his back taken by Cody Brundage in the first round. The Bukowskis fight, we just talked about Bukowskis. Blew through Sam Alvey, Paul Craig. Those are his UFC wins. I'm just putting it out there. Sam Alvey, Paul Craig in a dogfight where he was held down for a round by Paul Craig, Modestas Bukauskas, and Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. Like this, the market is probably too high on him. I think it's appropriately low on Alonzo Menafield, though. So I don't know. I have a small bet on Menafield. It's not the most passionate take I've ever had, but I do think he has the tools to keep this upright and on the feet. Creek's definitely not minus 200 in my opinion. So we will see. Moving on, we got a good one here. Maybe a good one. I know there's some passion around this. I don't have a bet on it, at least not yet. But we got Justin Taffa taking on Parker Porter. A lot of folks betting Parker Porter this week. And candidly, going into tape for it, I fully expected to bet Parker Porter as well. I was like, how is this guy an underdog to Justin Taffa? Coming out of tape, I think I lean more to the Taffa side here, though. You know, you look at it, and I'll never forget losing 5 units on Juan Adams at minus 250 against Justin Taffa. That happened. And why did I lose that much money on Juan Adams? Because I taped Taffa's grappling regionally, and it literally was like the worst grappler I'd ever seen in my life. Has that changed? We don't really know. The thing is, for me with this fight, for Porter, I don't really think, I know there's a lot of talk about Porter's output. I think it's a straw man argument. You watch this guy's output, it's not meaningful output. He's not really disturbing fighters with it. He's got no defense of his own. Like you watch that Sherman fight, dead gassed out Chase Sherman was still touching him whenever he let his hands out late in that fight. You watch the Parisian fight. Parisian landed 50% of his distance head strikes. You know, this is just a guy, Porter will throw high output at times, but he's not putting anything behind it. And he's also not fighting like super, super dangerous guys on the feet. Like we know, or you should know, power has a tendency to suppress volume. It's in the data. It's there. It is what it is. Porter hasn't fought a lot of power. And you look at the Sherman fight, as soon as Sherman's power started to wane, that's when he really picked up. But you go back to the Badeau fight, Porter got outlanded at distance there, and he was fairly low volume in that fight when they were at distance. And so I look at this fight, and there's a huge speed edge for Taffa here. He's certainly the better boxer. The best argument for Parker Porter on the feet is Parker Porter is going to outvolume Justin Taffa. And it's possible. But it's also possible Porter outvolumes him and loses a very convincing decision because Taffa is hurting him and landing clean consistently on the feet. I actually would argue if they stay standing for 15, that's likely. I also think it's very possible that Taffa just ices Porter here. Like it's a fairly high percentage outcome, whereas I think Porter's upside on a standing KO is fairly low. And so ultimately, to me, the fight comes down to, well, who wins the grappling? Because we have tape of Taffa looking absolutely fucking dog shit on his back. But the tape isn't for like 4 or 5 years. And at 29 years old, I think you have to make some assumption here that Taffa has made some improvements. He's probably still bad, but like, let's be clear about something. Parker Porter just fought Alan Badeau and Chase Sherman. He went 3 for 16 in takedowns in those fights. Alan Badeau and Chase Sherman might be the 2 worst defensive grapplers in the heavyweight division. And Porter held down Sherman for a minute, didn't get him down again. Eventually held down Badeau for a while, but he struggled to take him down. And like Badeau's a guy who got absolutely grappled to death by Josh Parisian. And so I asked myself when I was looking at this, like, how likely is Porter to take down Taffa? And it's like, sure, if Taffa's defense is as poor as it was 5 years ago, maybe very likely. But I don't think that is the case. And I don't think you have to be a strong defensive grappler to keep the fights upright against Parker Porter. And if he keeps it upright, I think he's going to carve him apart. With that said, I haven't bet Taffa because, there is obviously huge favorite upside on the Porter side of things as well here. Like if Porter can get takedowns and Taffa hasn't improved, he could dominate. I just feel like you have to make at 29 years old some assumption that there's been some improvement in that realm of his game. Whereas Porter at 37 is old, declining, and a finished product. To me, though, I could never bet Porter in this spot. If the line flips, I'll bet Taffa. But I kind of think he's the side here. What do you think, Legs?
Yeah, not a passionate take either, but I'm going to agree with you here. Obviously, I think like you mentioned, which is a very live outcome, is just him landing the harder shots and Parker just slightly out-voluming him and not getting a single takedown because he's not able to, like you said, grapple the previously bad grapplers. Badeau's a guy with horrible cardio. I know Taffa's not a guy with great cardio himself, but like Badeau is like one of the worst to ever do it. I think Tafa knocks Porter out, honestly. Porter's so defensively void on the feet. I think it's a good spot for Tafa. But again, it's low-level heavyweights.
It is. You're basically rolling the dice.
Yeah,
Which I guess
you are.
if you're going to roll the dice, being on the dog side is not the worst thing in the world. So, and especially if you, I mean, I can't knock anybody who got like those early Porter plus 140 tickets for, you know, taking the stab. But
it's a pass.
Yeah, I'm with you. Moving on, great fight here. We got Jack Della Maddalena taking on Randy Rude Boy Brown. Lags, what do you think?
It is a great fight. And I like the under 2.5 rounds. Minus 140. Got a unit and a half on that. I love Jack's boxing, honestly. And I think at some point in this fight, he's going to close the distance, get in tight on Randy, do some good nutritional work, and I think he's going to knock him out, honestly. To me, Jack's just a guy that if I'm looking to fade him, I'm trying to have a solid wrestler or a guy with solid durability. And I don't think Randy's either of those two. I think just Randy's kind of fragile, in my opinion. I know me saying that, sitting in his chair, it is what it is, but I don't think the durability is quite there for Randy.
No, that's fair. And honestly, I'm about to make a Randy Brown case, but I love Jack's boxing as well. It's kind of funny because I feel like people hear me talk about Jack and they hear me saying that I think he's a fraud, and I don't think that's the case.
Because you bet Ameev, I think that's why.
Yeah. Ameev almost subbed him 30 seconds.
I know. No, I'm not shitting on you, John. I'm just saying. I know.
Like, I don't think he's a fraud. I think Jack's a pretty good fighter. He's obviously got high output. He hits hard. His body work is fucking sick. But with that said, I said this before the Roberts fight last time. I bet Danny Roberts. That was obviously a horrible bet. I'm not going to sit here and stand up for it. It was a small bet, but it was not a good bet. But I said this before the last fight. I think Jack's boxing is elite. I think his power for the division is quite good. Is it elite? I'm not sure. It might be. You know, I think we need a little bit more data here to find that out. But I think his boxing is excellent. My problem with Jack is I do think he's a limited fighter, and I think he has some flaws that are very bad, which, like, you know, he's being priced in this spot as if he's a top 5 fighter at welterweight. And I think he has flaws that definitively make him not that. For instance, I think his grappling is poor, quite poor. You know, he doesn't have good takedown defense. You can see it regionally. You can see it in the UFC. He's got pretty clearly awful submission grappling. You know, we saw Angelusa almost tap him. He exploded out of it. You don't explode out of arm triangles that much in the UFC. We saw Ramazan Ameev almost tap him 30 seconds into their fight. I mean, that opinion of mine has not changed in the slightest either here. His cardio, I think, is a question mark. He looked tired late against Lusa. The guy hasn't fought past the first round many times in his career. And, you know, you look at the 170-pound division, there just aren't many guys who fight at the output Jack does and can maintain it. It's like Colby and Usman, the 2 best welterweights ever. Those are the guys who can fight at that pace, you know?
Bilal.
And yeah, Bilal too. Bilal's got great cardio,
yeah,
as well. That's fair. But like that's really it. And so I think to assume he has good cardio is like a big assumption with the pace that he fights at. I mean, he could even have good cardio and still slow down, just given the pace that he fights at, you know? And so, yeah, I have some questions about his game, candidly. And Randy Brown, look, Randy Brown's got his flaws. I agree. He's a little fragile. If you can get inside on him, you can do some damage. But Randy Brown's a solid fucking fighter, man. Like, people are talking about this guy like he's another bum or another Danny Roberts they're lining up in front of him here. And it's just not true. I mean, the guy's got 15 UFC fights. He's not old. He's 32 years old. He is in his prime right now. You know, Chaos was a tough fight. You know, Randy Brown is allergic to leg kicks, and Chaos throws him viciously, and he hung in there, and he won a split decision in that fight. I'm not sure. Actually, I know Jack should not be minus 300 against Chaos Williams. Trinaldo, same thing. He's getting shit for that, but like, what part of Jack's game is going to mimic what Trinaldo did? You know, Trinaldo is another tough fight for most guys who aren't like elite in that division, even today. I feel like you look at Brown's career and his metrics are excellent. He's got a good clinch game. He's got a good submission game. He's not the best wrestler, more because he doesn't go for, I don't think he's even, he's not a good wrestler. I shouldn't say that. He's a pretty bad wrestler, but he doesn't go for it much either, though, in fairness. And I don't know that he's a worse wrestler than Angelusa, who got that Jack down fairly easily, to be honest. Am I saying he's going to come out here and attempt takedowns? I mean, I hope he does. I really hope he does. Given his track record, probably not. But he did do this camp with Marquez MMA. I mean, we all know that's a serious grappling gym. You know, all their studs in there are grapplers. So hopefully he does come out here and attempt takedowns. But even standing, I think there are places he can give Jack issues. He's taller, a lot taller. He's a lot longer. Jack needs to be in the pocket, but I think if they end up in the clinch, I think Randy's much better. And did I cut out there?
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
I was wondering because I was looking real quick and I was like, I think I'm good. I'm all right. I think it's just
But yeah, I mean, I think his team game could cause Jack issues. I mean, ultimately, what I feel like when I'm looking at this is I have to project over the course of an extended fight, Jack to have less success against Randy Brown than he did against, say, an Ange Lusa. And I have to project Randy Brown to have more success than Lusa did against him. And it's like, if you add that dynamic together, it's like, how could he possibly be minus 300? That makes no sense. You want to make Jack like minus 150, even minus 185. Okay, I mean, I can see that. But minus 300 when Jack's game is he's not going to low kick, which is Randy's biggest problem and has been historically. He's not going to grapple. He might have cardio issues, and he's minus 300 because he's a good boxer. To me, that seems crazy. Jack's career, close fight with Angelus.
I think we lost John again. John? Okay, I think we lost John for a second here. I'll hold up a little bit here and give him some time to get back in here, but we definitely lost John. All right, we'll just hold up here. Wait for John to get back in here. So I think John is still having some issues connecting at the moment. But I give him a couple minutes. I don't want to get into the two big title fights we have here without him. But all right, John is telling me to keep going. So it is what it is. So John's going to try to figure out what's going on in the meantime, and then we can circle back to him. So co-main event, we have Josh Emmett, Yair Rodriguez. To me, there's a lot of speculation here on the Emmett side. Like, I know there's a lot of injury rumors, this and that. He's much older. I get it. But he has a wrestling path, even though he doesn't go out there and use it. He's got big power. Obviously, in the Cater fight, even though I did score that fight for Calvin Cater, Josh Emmett did land some solid power shots in there. Output was solid as well. And I think he could keep up with the output here as well. Obviously, like health aside. But I like the under 4.5 rounds here, plus 125 out of the unit on that. I think this is just a war of a fight. I think Yair has a ton of finishing upside on the feet. And like I said, I think Emmett has a ton of finishing upside on the feet as well. So I love violence in the spot. And yeah, I expect a great interim title fight here. And I think Emmett honestly knocks out Yair Rodriguez. I don't think the defense is there for him. So yeah, I don't mind the shots on Emmett. I think John is trying to figure out his connection issues here. All right. I don't know if John is coming back or not at the moment, but we shall see. Any comments? I guess we'll address some comments there. There we go.
You hear me?
What's up, John? There you go. Yep.
Yeah, I'm on my
I'm not holding the fort down great myself. Not a great solo host.
You're not holding it down. What fight are we on? Are we still on?
We are still on the co-main event. For me, I just said that I get the injury concerns on the Emmett side, but I think it's a solid fight for him, even though the wrestling hasn't, he hasn't gone to it in the past a ton.
Yeah.
But I like the under 4.5 here. I think violence is perfect spot for this fight.
Yeah, I also like the under 4.5 quite a bit. Lags, can you pull the lines up too for everything? Because I have my computer is completely
Yep. I got you.
Yeah, I like the under though. Honestly, I kind of like Emmett. Had those injury rumors not come out, I would have bet him and probably made a decent size bet on him. I actually think the line should be about -150 Emmett, all things being equal. I personally think he's got more submission upside, or not submission, I'm sorry, more finishing upside in this fight by a good bit. And, despite the potential volume disparity between Emmett and Rodriguez on paper, as I mentioned earlier, power tends to suppress volume. And, there's no clearer indicator of that than Josh Emmett fights. And, one thing you do see with Emmett is when guys have tried to volume him, he will throw back. He's not a Tyron Woodley who lets you just go and get off, free volume against him. He lets his hands go. And so I kind of think minutes are going to be close. I think there's more moment upside on the Emmett side of things. I think he's beaten better competition, to be honest. Sure, Yair beat Brian Ortega, but he was injured, let's be honest. And for me, though, I can't bet that because you're telling me there's a major injury, potentially a major hip injury and or shoulder injury on the Emmett side. Is it true? I don't know, but if it is, it means his floor is a lot lower than Yair's potential floor, which complicates things. That said, I do like the under a lot. I think people make too much of Yair's durability, to be honest. This guy hasn't been in that many wars. The zombie fight, I guess, but it's probably not the best version of zombie we've ever seen. He's never fought someone that can hit like Emmett. We know he's got cardio issues. The guy slows down in round 3s and later in every fight. And on the Emmett side, Emmett can certainly be hurt. We've seen him finish before. Yair throws enough damaging stuff. I kind of think over should be like -125, -150. So I like the under here. I played that as well.
Yeah, while you're in here, actually, I was like, yeah, Emmett probably knocks him out. Honestly, I think Yair's defense is just not there.
Also, one last thing on the last fight. Yeah, so I bet Brown, and I also bet Brown by submission plus 1,300. So we're Randy. But yeah, I'm with you. You might knock him out. I just don't. I guess for me, and you can tell me if you disagree, I don't really understand laying -185 on Yair Rodriguez or laying -180 or even -175. He's not going to grapple, So can you trust him to volume Emmett? Shane Burgos couldn't win a fight voluming Emmett. You're telling me Yair Rodriguez is going to? You trust
Calvin Kattar couldn't volume up Emmett.
Right. So you're telling me you trust these guys you trust Yair Rodriguez at big juice against Josh Emmett? To me, that's kind of crazy.
To me, he's got worse defense than both of those two.
Dude, look at that Holloway. If you get inside this guy, he's got nothing there. I'm massively concerned about the injury, but honestly, if it keeps going, I might bet Emmett. I do think he's the side, and if he looks normal through a round, I would probably enter live pretty quickly. I think you'll have a pretty good idea of what version of Emmett you're seeing fairly early in this fight.
Yeah, that's fair. After having a unit on a TJ Dillashaw in that fight, yeah, I'll stay away from injuries.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
All right, moving on. Main event. It's an alleged super fight. On paper, it does look like a super fight. We got Alex Volkanovski. We got Islam Makhachev. Islam's about -400. Honestly, guys, I have a new phrase for this. We're calling it J-Bor. It's called just bet on Russians. Islam's going to, I think he's going to absolutely destroy Volk, to be honest. And it's not big. Volk is one of my favorite fighters. I've bet him in almost every one of his UFC fights. I love the guy. And I think if they were the same size, maybe it could be competitive. But, one thing is, first of all, I mean, Volk's not a big featherweight. Dimensionally, he's the same height and same reach as Aljamain Sterling. And then you look at Islam, and Islam could legitimately fight at welterweight. So, I mean, the size is a huge deal here. The second thing is, I mean, let's be honest. Who has really hung with Islam in the grappling? This is a guy, he dumpstered Thiago Moises. He dumpstered Arman Sarukian. He dumpstered Charles Oliveira. And because Volk's beaten a bunch of strikers at 145, the line's way wide? I don't think so. Go back and watch, Darren Elkins got takedowns against Volkanovski. Chad Mendez got takedowns easily against Volkanovski and got this guy's back. Could Volk have made huge improvements since then? Absolutely. He could. I mean, he's one of the best to ever do it, so it's possible. Could he have made enough improvements so that he can be competitive grappling with Islam? I very much doubt it. And so if that's the case, if your assumption, like mine is that Islam can get takedowns fairly easily and likely get control fairly easily, then the question is, how likely is Volk to finish? And let's be honest, even at featherweight, Volk's never been the most proactive finisher ever. He's never been the most deadly striker. Most of the finishes he has secured have come via attrition. Even the zombie fight, he hurt him a few times, but that was more almost attritional damage finish than it was, him one-shotting him. And so I think the chances of him landing damaging shots that could put out Islam are just very, very, very low. I think Islam's like 85 to 90% here, if I'm being honest. I bet Islam minus 330. I honestly, even at minus 400, think there's still value on him at this spot. What do you think, Legs?
I will tell you a prop how I think you can approach it. A little bit less juice. Well, a lot less juice, but it's okay. Islam in the over 1.5 rounds on DraftKings. They have that at minus 165. Well, I should say they have it minus 175 now. I played minus 165 for unit and a half, and yeah, similar to you, I think he can get takedowns whenever he wants, control them. Just the strength and the overall physique of Islam is just, I think, going to be too much. And I know it's an easy cop out just to say that, but the strength and the physical advantages that Islam have are insane.
In my opinion, Lags, if it was anybody other than Alex Volkanovski in a similar kind of situation, Islam would be like minus 1,000 in this fight. And I say that because Volk, obviously the market's not going to let Volk get priced out there. This guy might be, he's probably the best featherweight to ever fight, mixed martial arts. And so there's obviously a lot of people willing to buy Volk at, plus 300. But yeah, I mean, stylistically, I think it's an absolute nightmare for him. I think he can maybe hold up at 145, but I don't think so. What's the doesn't go?
Got you. The doesn't go on FanDuel's minus 176. FanDuel or DraftKings minus 165.
I don't think.
And then you
have.
And then Islam ITDs minus 110 on DraftKings, minus 130 elsewhere. It seems like.
I don't think that's bad either. I think there's a lot of assumptions being baked into the line regarding Volk's inability to get finished because Ortega didn't finish a guillotine. This is a level of grappler he's never seen before. And I will say the most impressive thing in Islam's recent run was him still being completely fresh in the tank late against Moises and finishing him the way he did. I wouldn't be surprised if he finished relatively early, but I think it's more likely to come later. But I do think I think Volk is just badly outclassed in the grappling here.
Yeah, not much more to add.
All right. Well, that'll do it tonight, guys. I am sorry for the technical difficulties. I don't know what happened to my internet.
And I'm sorry for my hosting issues on the back end because I know my solo self was not doing too hot. Just trying to buy some time here, but it's all right. It's what it is.
Well, hopefully it went well. I'll listen tomorrow, and hopefully we didn't fuck things up too bad on the technical side of things. But anyway, guys, we'll be back next week. We got another card next Wednesday or next weekend. Aaron Blanchfield, Tyler Santos. That's a fun main event for a women's main event. I'll say that. But yeah, we'll be back 7 p.m. Good luck on your bets this weekend, guys. Hopefully you cash with us, not against us. But if you are betting against us, good luck to you as well. We'll see you next week. Drop a like and subscribe. We appreciate it. As usual, you can find me.
Go ahead. Finish it first.
No. That's the.
Oh, and then sorry, and then the tweet Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon. I'll put that tweet out for the contest.
Follow and run with it. Yeah. Guys, drop a like and subscribe. If you like both of us or want to chat with us, you can find me on Twitter at MMA Fox, Lags on Twitter at Danny_Lags. Good night, everybody. Good luck, and we'll see you guys next week. Take it easy.